Okay, this tutorial is going to focus on just texturing of the objects versus building. I really want you guys to customize these things. I hate to think that you're going to limit yourself to whatever I've provided you in the package. I know I've provided a lot, but when it comes to the base materials, as before, I'm giving you a set of base textures that can all be colored in some way. So if you were to pick the siding here and you texture the silo, well, you could adjust the color of it. This whole siding right now is just with this siding, but let's Control D it to get yourself a so pick the word siding, Control D. Now we've got a copy of it so I don't mess up the original. You can make it a different color, and we've shown some of this before. And so that's okay. That's fun to do, and it works fine, and I think it will work well for basic objects. But if you want some really distressed or some rustic look to your pieces and help it blend in, look a little more realistic, one thing you're going to have to do is just get on the internet and download some textures. Everything is textured as a square, so you could download a 512 by 512, something that's 1024 by 1024. And the way I do it is go to cgtextures.com, register yourself, you get 15 free credits a day. But I just went in here and went to metal. It's where I started, and I'm just looking for something to put on the side of this silo. And there's just so many beautiful textures to use that people have already done. So if I go to this corrugated plates, I'm going to find something maybe that will work well for our silo. You know, this with the rivets in it might look nice. It's not real distressed. These are all pretty clean. So that would look nice. So you could click on that and download that. We'll get this one. And so I'm a free license. I'm just getting the 1024. And for me, I've got a bunch of textures. So this is just metal. And I've saved it before, but we'll save that. And then let's go get just something a little more rustic. So let's get something from the rusted section. And you know, I don't know how this will look because it's going to repeat up it. It would be nice if you actually had two, where you could have one that was clean and one was dirty. Let's just see what happens with this one. This is really where you're going to get some uniqueness to your project. And so I've saved both those. Let's go back into Unity. Now what you're going to want to do is, let's move this siding one into our base distressed, since I know this is distressed. And let's import in those new textures that we've got. So I think hopefully you saw that I right-clicked on the textures and just going to bring in those metal textures that we got. You can also just drag and drop it from here if you have a file explorer open. And then you can just left mouse and drag it into your project. And so now we've got this siding. Let's call this one, to match up here, let's call one metal new. And then Control D this metal new. And let's call it metal rust. And then I'm going to click on the metal new, and the texture is still that siding texture, and we're just going to drag the metal new texture over it. I don't want it to be yellow. And you'll see that's the rivets, and that looks pretty good. I like that. And then the metal rust, we're going to left click and drag the other one we got, and let's try that one out. It's kind of wild. You know, so in the end, if you utilize your resources, you're going to get such a cooler look. You saw on the other tutorial, the base tutorial, where I did that more, let me jump over there real quick. But I did this more rustic sort of brick, and I just think that looks nicer. The other cool thing is you could just do an individual plane, and if you actually go to some of these here, they've got even distress textures in here. Oh, where was that? Let's just go back to textures. Somewhere there's just even distressing these decals, and you can just drop those on planes. So if you want this bottom, let's pick something that would look, maybe want some moss on the bottom of our building. Or on the bottom of the silo, whatever you may want. You could take these into Adobe. You can drop these on a plane. But let's bring this in, see what that looks like. And now it's got some transparency to it. But you got to make a new material, so I'm going to Control D the metal rust and just call this decal moss. See what happens here. In the end, our plane is not the right size. Let's make a game object, 3D object, plane. Texture that, see what it looks like. It's looking a little better. Let's rotate it. Bring it out. So this top part we need to make transparent, and so we got to make our, what I do, decal moss. We got to change the shader on this, so go to the inspector, change this to legacy shaders, transparent, cutout, diffuse. And see, now we've got, honestly, I would do this in Photoshop. This plane, we got to take the shadow cast off. I would do this in Photoshop. It's just more my style, but that would actually work decently from a distance, you know, just trying to give you some ideas. On how to rough things up a bit. But I think you kind of get the idea. Download stuff from the internet, play a bit, enjoy.